Hello, hello. Yo, we're in the building. Yo, what's going on? Gotta get my dip right. Hold on. All right. How's everybody tonight? Welcome. Is this a Zoom meeting? Yo, I'm so sick of Zooms. I gotta tell you. Hey, can you guys hear me all right? Yeah? Okay. Uh, Somebody let me know if my levels are all right. JRD, can you say type something? Let me know if you can hear me. Try to fix this light. Oh, it's just a little too much. Thanks. Hey, thanks, Paul Pate. Welcome, you guys. We're back again. I feel like I've been putting in a lot of work on video this week, but it's all for the greater good. I hope everybody's well. You guys like the green room, the bean room? Yo, write that down. I'll be in the bean room for a minute. Where's Manly? You know that's a whole different podcast. JRD, don't mix the brands up. Ross, what's going on? How are you? Paul Pate, hold on, let me put you on. Paul Pate says that background, I could smell the beans. Also, if you could see that I changed on the John down here, you see I changed the branding, so now it's brown, like me. So yeah, some little improvements to Coffee Break with JN. I have to innovate now. I see there's cats out here trying to do my hustle, so I gotta turn up the heat a little bit. But thanks you guys for coming in. Time for my ID. Ah, man, I'm a little punch drunk today, guys. Who hope you can bear with me. Time for ID. Let's start. You're watching Coffee Break with JN with me, JN. I am your host for the next hour. If you've never been here before, the gist of this stream is that I, Jamar Nicholas, cartoonist in good standing in your internet virtual hug, will drink this coffee, rocking the Pac-Man mug tonight, and run his mouth. Well, my mouth. I'm not talking in third person. And run my mouth. And when I'm out of coffee, it's over. Hope you guys are good. JRD says you need Will Gallagher with his scintillating. Hello. My good buddy and virtual studio partner John Gallagher has been doing a Comics Academy series on YouTube and I think on Facebook also. And he's employing his lovely family as extra help. So one of his sons is the cameraman, and he's already the star of this because John always intros him. He goes, "Hey, this is my son Will. Will, say hello." And he goes, "Oh." That's the best part of the whole thing. Hey, what up, Carla? I'm drinking coffee too. I was jelly. What kind of coffee are you drinking? What's your blend tonight? So I'm going to go back in time just so I can reference this. So JRD, a.k.a. number one, a.k.a. Riker, a.k.a. now he's on Picard, the show on CBS all streaming access that I do not have, says, "Where's Manly?" If any of you guys didn't know, last night, myself and my buddy Mike Manley restarted Pencil to Pencil, the podcast that I talk about all the time. I don't know if any of you guys have ever listened to an episode, but we kind of took a lot of time off between myself, Brett Blevins, and Mike, just trying to organize our schedules. Just was not working. But I thought, hey, you know what? I'm loving being on live StreamYard. That's what we're doing. And, these tools are really robust. I think this would be the perfect way to kind of usher in a new era of pencil to pencil. So I went live last night with Mike, and you can still see that. It should be on my Facebook wall if you're watching on Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, because we're in two places right now, and we're going live on YouTube. We are going to, at some point, be putting that on a YouTube channel. We're also going to be stripping the episodes that we do live into audio podcasts. So you'll be able to listen to Pencil to Pencil on Stitcher. We also have an account on iTunes. So there'll be plenty of places to see that. Well, for some of you guys that were here last night when Mike and I were doing that podcast, I'd like to hear what you thought of it. What did you think? Do you think it was good? I talked to one of my friends from the group, one of the caffeines, told me in Facebook Messenger that he liked both of them for different reasons, but was a little, I don't say surprised, but I think he had never seen me be in interview mode before. I have a different demeanor when I'm interviewing people than I'm just kind of chopping it up with you guys. So yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys thought of Pencil to Pencil. I'm realizing that when I say that brand, it sounds like I'm saying pencil. It's Pencil to Pencil, not two like Boys to Men. It's Pencil, T-O, Pencil. JRD says the cool thing was to be able to watch him ink during the podcast. So, yeah, a couple of people have already talked about watching him draw. Now, that's also something that I think is interesting, that both of us at different points in time do drawing live streams. I know Mike goes live on Instagram a lot, and he just is at the table drawing, or he's using his Cintiq and he's drawing. And people are really engaged in that. So is that something you'd want to see more of? As I know personally that hopefully Brett will be here, or maybe my assistant Sandra, or maybe I'll have to just deputize somebody to kind of control the room and the boards, because I know that I can't draw and host and do all these magic tricks with the comments if I'm trying to draw too. It's just way too much for me. But yeah, I had a great time, and we're looking to do those maybe twice a week, as long as we're all on lockdown. We might as well use the technology and the time that we have available. So I believe Mike and I may do another Pencil to Pencil podcast this weekend. So if that happens, I'll let you know. Carla says, I'm drinking my husband's Maxwell House dark roast with vanilla creamer. Nice. I've found out over time that I like straight, quote unquote, old people coffee. Like I like Folgers. I like Maxwell House. I do enjoy a nice Bustelo once in a while, something a little strong. But I don't like gimmick coffee anymore. Like when I first started getting into coffee, I thought I had to kind of trick myself into finding something that was coffee adjacent. But, I don't, it's just got to be, it's got to just taste like coffee and be coffee nowadays. So let me throw in some banners. Now, since we've switched gears again and we're in a coffee break, I get to pimp my things. So I'll talk about my Patreon, where you can always become a patron of mine. We're doing really interesting things. I'm packing up Jamar crates for last month. And for anybody who's still a little fuzzy about what I'm doing on Patreon, you thought you've seen enough of me here. My patrons get to see exclusive videos that I post, exclusive posts, behind the scenes things from the studio. Once in a while, I throw in some digital archives of my own work, my old work. I just did a portfolio flip earlier in this week, where I go through my old projects and I talk about them while I flip through the original artwork. All that and more. So if you're interested in that, you can always go to patreon.com/Jamar Nicholas. And while I'm at it, my GLOs, I will shout them out. There's my man JRD, number one. The good looking out tier are people that I shout out in public whenever possible. So thank you so much, JRD, and the rest of the crew. Paul Pate, freeze-dried taster's choice. Yeah, that's old people call. I don't think I could get down with that. I think I had is freeze-dried. That's kind of that's instant, right? I had instant coffee not too long. Well, this is years ago. I was at a college flea market, and I had set up at the college flea market in the parking lot because I had a bunch of toys or something I was trying to sell. And it was so early, I didn't stop at Dunkin' to get something to eat or drink. And the student union had a little table set up with food. And I was like, all right, let me go support these co-eds. So I go over, and the student who was working the table was like, hi. She was very energetic. Good morning. Hello. How are you? Yeah, can I get some coffee? And she just starts looking around behind her like that was a really strange request, which that was my first mistake. I should have left right there. But she had to go and find her supervisor, and they fumbled through a tea kettle or like a percolator, kind of like a like a hot plate type of tea kettle. And she pulled out this can, freeze dried, might have been Taster's Choice, instant coffee, and just started like thunk, dropping these scoops into the styrofoam cup, and then they just like splashed the water all over the place. Oh my god, it was horrible. I kind of have some PTSD from that coffee, so. I hope that's not what you're talking about, Paul Pete. So let's just get started. How are you guys doing? How's everybody surviving? Is this like week 3 of the quarantine? I know that everybody's from different places and, representing different states or different areas. I have some friends who are out of the country and different countries. How are you guys making out? Like, are you kind of in a new normal place with this? Are you feeling like this is all a very weird dream? Are you just trying to go about your business and have lots of Zoom meetings and work in a top and no pants? Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. And then we can talk about some comic book related stuff or some industry stuff or some illustration stuff, whatever you want to do. JRD says, aka week 3 of teenagers shut in. Yeah. When I was younger, I don't get that anymore because I'm an old man now. But when I was younger, I was never somebody who kind of got those stuck in those conversations where people ask you about children, like, do you have any kids? Where's your kids? Oh, I swore you would have had kids. And my lady and I, we don't have any children, and I am really okay with that right now because sip of coffee for all you parents who are like stuck at home with your children. That's its own experience. Yeah, man, I don't know how you guys are doing that, but that's wild. Oh, hey, May, how are you? Adjusting has been my word for all of this. Yeah, that's real. There's a lot of adjustment. And, I think at first people had this whole idea that, oh, well, you're home. So, and depending on who you're talking to, like a lot of creatives are like, wow, now I have more time to do all this stuff that I've been putting off. But just the reality of all this, unless you've already come from a routine or you're just trying to keep yourself busy, it's hard to keep going with this weight on top of you, right? It's real. And, a lot of my comic book buddies and other cartoonists that I'm just have a passing acquaintance with, will, especially at first, said things like, oh, well, this is just Tuesday. I'm home all the time. I'm home all the time anyway. There's no difference. But, it's really different. Even if it's just, you are sharing space with your family and you're working. I don't mean working like you're not working, but trying to produce in your same way that you do when now your wife is home and your babies are home and the cat is in your face and the dog, and there's Zoom meetings and the kids have homework that you have to get dealt with, and then you got to go put on your hazmat suit to go to the supermarket, and honey, can you go chase the squirrels off the roof? It's got to be just so much, so much. My man ID, what up? What up, ID? I haven't seen you in here in a long time, or maybe ever. Represent. How are you? My man says still trying to lock in a new routine. Yeah, I feel you. JRD says, "Do you want mine? No, I do not want your children." Paul Pate says, "Yep, the 8-year-old is the hardest part. Even just like the if you're not a homeschooler already or you don't give education to your kid, just trying to keep their hands busy has to be enough." Maybe one of the saving graces for me, I grew up. I was about to say grew up as an only child. Like, my brother died in a mysterious dam explosion. I'm an only child, and I grew up having to entertain myself, and I had a very strong mother who said things like, "Don't you dare come in here and tell me you're bored." So I spent a lot of time entertaining myself, which is probably why I'm fairly decent at making stuff up on the fly and talking to people or talking to myself. But the act of just kind of being sequestered with a bunch of people that you're now in charge of keeping from dying has to be a lot. So hats off to you guys. Carla says, missing my granddaughter, but writing a lot. Facebook Live for my jewelry business. Nice. Hey, Carla, do you want to put in the comments a link to your jewelry site or Facebook page? JRD says, yeah, that's the thing. I'm always home. Now we all are. And it's, yeah, I feel you. Well, one thing I want to make sure of for all my caffeines out there, you know who you are, the caffeines, the friends and regulars, not decaf, of Coffee Break with JN, is that this can be a small respite in your day to look forward to, where we get to hang out and just kind of chop it up, right? So like, it doesn't have to be all doom and gloom, but at the same time, I don't want to not talk about that stuff because it's real, right? Everybody's affected. Everybody's trying to deal. I know that I have had a bunch of highs and lows myself. Like Friday until maybe Tuesday, I was in a pretty funky place. And I just, I just was like shrugging, like, and I really think, and granted, I'm no doctor, but I think it's okay to just like be okay. It's okay to be all right with just being in a shitty spot. Like, I'm okay. People have it worse than me. People have it better than me. I'm happy for my spot. Everybody's healthy, God willing, and we just try to make a good day out of it. But I'm not going to sit here and try to distract you with magic tricks or juggling. Like, let's just, I think our relationship at this point is that we can be real with each other. Yeah, Carla put the name of her jewelry business out there. So yeah, go check her out. Support us. May says, yep, I'm loving my Vietnamese coffee nowadays. Yo, I think I need some Vietnamese coffee. That sounds amazing. So yeah, I want to try to like keep this bubbly, and already I feel like the energy is kind of low tonight. I'm sure everybody's just really like just blown out at this point, but Wait, you juggle? No, I do not juggle, but I do spin several plates on tiny, tiny sticks. It's one of my superpowers. Um, so, what do you guys think of the coffee break now? Like with all these doodads and enhancements, and now instead of the StreamYard duck, you see me there. See there over there. Does this feel like slick? Do I sound better now that I have all this crap in front of my face? Um, I really appreciate that you guys, a lot of the caffeines come out every week to see me. And I'm trying to create some normalcy for the coffee break. For a long time, it was really touch and go. I did one, I didn't do one. But now I'm trying to really stick to the schedule of doing these every Thursday at 9 o'clock. I know some of our old standby members of the caffeine army, like my man Tim Fielder, is always like blasting me because this is the wrong time for him because Rachel Maddow's on. But I love to hear what you guys think at this point. And the reason I'm asking is there's so many people going live now. Are you getting video overload? I know that my eyes hurt for my day job. I have to do a lot of Zoom conferences. I'm kind of zoomed out. And then, I'm doing commercials for Coffee Break with JN. And then I'm doing this, I'm doing a Patreon thing. Are you sick of looking at stuff? And from another self-care angle, are you finding times where you just shut screens off, even more than normal? Because I know that I try to watch a little bit of the news and then I turn it off because it's so much. It's so much, and the churn is just so. And it's almost like they're not really saying anything new, but they just find new ways to kind of promote the same thing they said for the last hour in different ways. So like that was really just twisting my brain, and I had to just shut it off. So I rarely turn the TV on. I do get news reports and blasts, and I'm up on where we are with the pandemic and stuff. But just like watching it and turning the remote to more of this, it's not good for my soul. So I know there's points where sometimes I just have to turn everything off, and I put my screens down. I flip my phone over, and I just like look out the window for a couple minutes. So yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys think. Paul Pate says, "Dude, yes, Dominican coffee is the best I've ever had." So is this like a challenge, like Vietnamese coffee versus Dominican coffee? I'm not going to get into a coffee war, but you guys talk amongst yourselves. Jared D says the audio is nicer, yeah. Well, that's good. I appreciate that. And, starting with tonight, the coffee breaks with JN are cross streaming here on my Facebook page and also on YouTube. Because I'm going to start beefing up my YouTube channel and maybe putting some of these old coffee breaks. I don't know if you saw on my Facebook wall, I started posting some old Drawing with Jamar segments I did maybe 10 years ago, where my hair was looking pretty great back then. And just, I don't want to say I'm turning into a content creator, but I feel like, and I said this on the Pencil to Pencil podcast last night, that I think us creatives have to have several streams of not even revenue, but just engagement now. I wish it was just enough to just draw funny pictures, but I see a lot of people who deal with the pressure of drawing interesting, engaging pictures that get stolen and put on a sweatshirt, and that takes up their whole day chasing down IP thieves, so I don't know. Anyway, let me go through this. Let me see what I see here. JRD says, does Tim not have a DVR? Hey man, I don't know how he's living. Maybe he doesn't, or maybe he needs that for his soul. That is funny. Speaking of my graphic in the corner, Ryan says, I thought you printed a poster of yourself. I'm not that vain. I'm pretty vain, but I'm not that vain. Bra says the new setup is really nice. Also helps you stand out from people that are just not jumping on live. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And, I said this a couple of weeks ago. I didn't invent this stuff. I cobbled together the idea to do these coffee breaks from like 3 or 4 different people who did and do kind of YouTube channels or live streaming. And I just kind of sprinkle my own, flavor on it, my own seasoning. And I think now, because of everybody being home, like, why not go live? And especially for the creatives, you find out that, your audience really does want to see you, or maybe they don't. That's not my call. But I think what works for me is that I'm fairly charismatic and I can string together some words. So, here I am. But also, like I said, I feel like I need to innovate. So, always expect newness from me. Even like the green room. Oh, what we call it, the bean room. Before we went live, that's hot. So you guys can come in and chill, and then I'll come from behind the curtain, and we'll get started at the beginning of these. I think it's time for an ID. What do you guys think? You're watching. Oh shit, I messed up. Hold on. You're watching Coffee Break with JN, now in brown. I'm Jamar Nicholas, your internet panic room. Thanks for joining us tonight. If you're new to the stream, I am a cartoonist who has been around for 20 plus years in the business. I started off self-publishing comic books. Then I started doing web comics before it was really called web comics. Then I somehow stumbled into doing some mainstream work. I have a book or two from Image, or Devil's Due. And I then started doing children's books and graphic novels and more print newspaper comics and freelance stuff. And I won a couple things, and here we are. What this standing stream is that I drink coffee out of said mug and run my mouth. When I'm out of coffee, we shut this down. Thanks for joining me tonight. If you'd like to see more of me, you can become a patron of mine on Patreon. And if that's too much for you, you can always buy me a coffee. Thanks. If you guys have any questions tonight or anything else you want to talk about, let's wrap. And while you guys are typing stuff up, also for anybody that's watching on YouTube, I cannot see your comments because I'm in the broadcast studio. So the only way I can see your comment, well, I don't know yet. I haven't had any YouTube people yet. Type your business in the comment section and I should see it. I just can't see people like watching like I can on Facebook Live. Over in my corner, it gives me the rundown of how long I've been on, and there's eyeballs. There's a literal eye on there, and then it's kind of like the emojis of likes, loves, and laughs. JRD says, I would suggest a little more color, though. It's pretty monochrome. Maybe a frame in Leon's colors around the image in the corner and a different color for your name card. You don't like the brown? I think I was going for like a coffee thing. I mean, I could go back to the red, but I don't know. You guys tell me, what do you think? And yeah, my studio is very brown. I'm very brown. Thank you very much. And I also wanted to make sure it wasn't competing with the pencil to pencil stuff, which was like bright red and blue. But yeah, I'm up to suggestions. JRD says, oh, wait a minute. No, let's do this. Yo, Amani, what's going on? Amani checking in. He says, yo, how you doing, brother? Let's see what else. I'm scrolling back a little bit. JRD says, I don't subscribe to a lot of YouTube channels, but it seems like they're all putting out a ton of content now. I think content is king, right? Just the way people are just ingesting Netflix shows. I still, and you guys can beat me up over this. I still don't know where people find the time to watch this stuff. And I'm not knocking anybody. I'm really not a yuck, you're yummer type of person. But it's just like, oh, I watched the whole season of this. How? I don't know. I don't get it. I think I can count on one hand the complete series of things that I've watched in the past 10 years. And, I could be a lot more productive, to be honest. Like, I think I have a decent output. I could be a lot better with it. I like to take breaks. I like to go and, look out the window. I like to walk my dog. And, I'm not a all work, no play type of person, but maybe it's just I don't like TV anymore. Maybe that's where it is. JRD, to finish this color thing, says the chat feed is all brown. So what I'm seeing is a lot of the same brown. A little pop like in the frame would help. All right, duly noted. Thank you for that. Oh, also, I use DS9 as background when I draw books. Does that count? Sure. So yeah, maybe I'll bring back the red. Anybody else have anything to say about the aesthetics of the channel? And again, this is all good stuff to me. It's totally cool. This doesn't work without you guys, right? So I love your input. Let's see what else is going on. Oh, watch the. Okay, Carla says, and thanks for saving me here. She says, in the middle of the night when you can't sleep, but you also can't work, that's why people binge watch. Okay. I also understand that people, kind of watch TV, or as my mother used to say, the TV is watching you. You just kind of like plant yourself in a place and just kind of let it wash over you. I totally get that. And like I said, I'm not knocking it. It's just, maybe if you guys could tell me, if you're a big TV watcher, what your mental state is when you're watching TV. Are you totally engaged in it? Are you kind of in that, what do they call it? There's some sort of term for, besides binge watching, where you're kind of in a stasis, where you're like watching and then it's just like, just one more. This is one more episode. Just one more episode. Oh, the season's over. Well, just the first episode of the next season. Yeah, I'd love to hear about your media habits. And also, has anybody ever heard of Plex? Plex is kind of like a online server thing where people basically upload their whole collection of whatever's. Like, people might have like almost every Hanna-Barbera cartoon, and you can just go through it almost like the same scrolling grid like on Netflix when you're searching for something to watch. The same thing is like that on Plex, but you have to kind of be friends with somebody who has a channel already. It's really interesting, and it's almost like almost like a iTunes for people's personal collections, like how you have all of your old music ripped on iTunes, and you kind of get addicted to flipping through the covers of things. I wonder if anybody is a Plex person or an Apple TV person. JRD, you're like the king of comments tonight. JRD says, I can sit and get sucked into a film, but not TV. Okay. TV is on in the background for me. I can't stand comedies. That's really interesting to hear because you have a very dry wit. So I figured you'd be a comedy guy. So I really just watch F1, MASH, Star Trek, or old adventure series. Nothing new. Nothing's better than MASH, I got to tell you. No, don't be sorry. This is good. I want to try to get the energy up in the room. It feels kind of, maybe it's brown. Maybe that's what's happening. Carla says, I always multitask. Multiplex has interesting stuff on that. What's multiplex? I've never heard of it. Paul Pate says, I've been trying to watch more TV lately just to relax. There you go, self-care. I think for me, and this is interesting, for any of you other Gen Xers out there, I think I kind of ran the table with television in the 80s. I watched a lot of television, and I think everybody did back then. And that's when the world was bigger, or maybe smaller in a way, where if there was a big event on TV, everyone saw it because there are only 3 channels in the UHF channels. So like the Motown anniversary special where Michael Jackson did the moonwalk, and everybody was like, "Whoa!" Everyone saw that. And now there's like a cajillion channels, and people don't really see big events like that anymore. You know, I think I got through the 80s and maybe a little bit of the 90s, and then I just kind of stopped watching television. But, you know, a couple of my pals in Meat Space could like blow your head up with 80s quotes. But yeah, I think the last things that I really watched and finished was Breaking Bad, The Sopranos, maybe a couple other things. A lot of the big groundbreaking things I just never got to, like Game of Thrones. And I'll tell people now I'm a drive-by viewer. Like I go through the living room and the TV's on, and I might go, "Okay, who's that? Okay, I get that. The little dude, I get it. All right." And then I leave. So I get the winter is coming. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The dragon, got it. But I haven't been invested in TV like that in so long. But I do think some of the biggest technological advances of the past 20 years are Easy Pass, because there's nothing better than just breezing through a toll booth in the DVR. Because any of you guys who are around my age know just how much hell would rain down on you if you forgot to set the VCR tape before you went out. And the show didn't record, or you recorded over your wedding because like Saturday night's main event wrestling was on. You know, oh man, I hated VHS tapes. I'm so glad that's over. But the DVR is amazing. But then I have to clear the DVR because there's things that I'm interested in watching, and I just don't watch them, and it just fills up the DVR. Like I was a big Breaking Bad fan, and I was all about Better Call Saul. I watched 2 episodes and was just like, and I put it down. So, all right, let me go back through the comments because I've been running my mouth. Paul Pate says, "My wife and I binge watch stuff. We do not like to have the TV on in the background just playing." Okay. I know in the studio, like I don't even have a TV in my studio, but I can't work and watch TV. It distracts me. And kind of like what JRD says, I like noise, but I don't want to have anything on that I'm going to turn around and have to look at because there's an explosion or somebody said something. So even with that, and I think the last chat we had, I talked about humor, and when 30 Rock came out, that was like the perfect show for me because I was a big Tina Fey and an SNL fan, and I couldn't watch it because you have to pay attention to 30 Rock. Like you couldn't just have that on in the background because you miss half the jokes because they're all visual. So, yeah. Bra says, "Sounds like LimeWire and Napster, but you're just watching and not downloading." Are we talking about Plex or multiplex that Carla said? Hey, Mike. Mike Manley's in the room. The filmography of Larry Storage. Good old Larry Storage. I'm showing my age that I know about F Troop. Let's see what else is on here. Bra says, "I'll watch series, especially ones I've seen already while I'm in the studio." Yeah, like the old standbys just make everything better. Some of my favorite, which are movies, not really TV shows, is if I'm deep in it, I'll put Lord of the Rings on. Like, I just watched the first one. I kind of lose interest in the second and third ones, but the first one is dope. And I know I'll just eat up 3 hours like that because Lord of the Rings is on. And around the time that they put a bunch of broomsticks through Boromir's chest, I know it's 3 hours is going by. Paul Pate saves the universe by saying, I have not watched Tiger King. Yeah, people won't shut up about Tiger King. And that's kind of what I was talking about. It's like there's kind of like internet pressure or this weird water cooler peer pressure about you. Did you? Oh, I watch Walking Dead. That's the only thing I watch every week. Maybe because I'm invested in a couple of ways, but I watch that. Bra says, oh, you said that already. JRD says, there's a show I found on YouTube from the UK that I do love. Portrait Artist of the Year. Tell me more. It's a kinder, gentler competition series where painters paint portraits for a few hours. Calming and cool to watch the techniques. Yeah, I want to check that out. Is it kind of like a documentary style? That sounds really cool. Oh, and JRD says, hello, Mr. Manley. Say hi to JRD, Mike. Yeah, I found that my new portal is YouTube. I watch a lot of YouTube, and I don't know if that's really a difference anymore between the television and YouTube. I'm one of those people who kind of like blocks out the commercials, and I think I posted on my wall a little while ago when the lo-fi beats studying girl YouTube channel went down for a minute, and people were like, yo, that's my shot. For anybody that's in the studio or in a place for a long period of time where you don't want to have to think about searching for something to listen to, like those YouTube long play channels are amazing. I'm a big video gamer, or I used to be. And I follow a lot of YouTubers who do like video game things, not really Let's Plays and things like that, but more kind of just talk about the history, kind of like the way I am with pencil to pencil in the comic book industry. I like knowing about the business of video games. A couple of my buddies are video game designers, and they're in the business. And I just find it really interesting. And I wish I had the kind of mental real estate to play games the way I would like to. I guess we're starting to shape me into a certain type of person where if I do play anything, it's like in and out, like a game of Miss Pac-Man, because I know I have 3 lives and then it's done. But I remember I tried to boot up like Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time on N64, and I kind of cycled through the buttons because I forgot how the buttons work. Because there's so many buttons on all those controllers these days. And I wound up on the inventory screen and then shuffled to another screen and another screen and another screen, and they were all blank. And I got really depressed. And I was like, yo, I'm not going to play this. I didn't want to commit the time into filling all this up. It wasn't even a challenge. I just turned it off. And I think that's kind of where I am these days. Yeah, so JRD put the link up. I wish you could click on that. But yeah, I want to check out check that show out. That sounds cool. All right, let's break this up with some commercials. Interested in what I'm talking about or seeing more of me, but don't want to commit to Patreon? Buy me a coffee. I joined Ko-fi, where you can throw me $3 for being a good sport and being a friendly, handsome face in the darkness that is our lives these days. You know, why don't you pay the brother? And also, if that you want to do a little bit more than that, consider becoming a patron. I was talking to somebody not too long ago about just this deluge of people going live and live streaming. I've been talking a lot about that lately. And I think last week I said something to the effect of, this isn't easy. And I don't think everybody is really set up to do this kind of stuff. That's why I think was one of the early appeals of podcasts, is that you could have a face for radio and have really interesting things to say, and people didn't have to worry about how they looked or if they had the right lighting at a studio set up, you could just kind of go in. And as long as you had a good microphone, you were good. But now we're in video where it's kind of like people kind of need a gimmick, right? Either you got to have like on something provocative, or you have to be really nice with the words, or maybe you, I don't know, you have to, looks like your office looks like you live in an Apple store. You have to have something that is like grabbing people's attention. So, as people kind of just figure out whatever their voice is, hopefully people will keep innovating. Like I said, when we started, I feel like that's something I have to do just to keep up. Right. And it was really nice that a couple of people I know who are now streaming or doing live Facebook things kind of in this format will give me some props like, yo, good looking out, Jamar. It gave me an idea. It means a lot to me. I'm not somebody that sulks and goes, oh, you stole my deal. Because like I said, I didn't invent any of this. But it's nice to, credit where things come from, or at least people that give you kernels. That's a good look to me. More questions / comments. If I want to donate to your Ko-fi without you knowing it was me, is that Ko-fi? Yes. Thanks. JRD says, I have a face for scaring goats from under a bridge. Thus, I write. You gave me the hiccups. I hope you're happy. Thanks for the business shout out. Oh, anything for you, Carla. Yeah, this seems like a pretty solemn one this week. But, I'm glad that I'm able to kind of keep doing these things. And, when the energy's good, we rock with it. Sometimes I have something I really want to share or get off my chest. And I think right now we're kind of just like treading water. And that's okay. Right? That's okay. I'm here for you. And we can always come together and share a cup of coffee from the 6 foot distance. Anybody have anything they want to talk about or run by me before I start shutting this down? We're at the 49-minute mark, so I have a little bit more for you guys. One other thing I want to start talking about, since I've been talking so much and doing so many videos, I think I've done a session every day this week on, what's today, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday? I think on Tuesday, I did an interview with our good friend Julian Lytle, or July as we call him. He's another caffeine, and he has a really cool podcast called Ignorant Bliss, where he spins some music, and then he talks about things that are going on in his life, where he's a cartoonist and he's also a movie reviewer, and he's a member of the press, and he gets to get in the places that other people can't. And he has a really fresh, engaging outlook on things. And JRD, I know, is a good friend of Julian. He's a brilliant dude. I don't say that about everybody, but Julian is super, super smart. And he had me on his show once, maybe a year ago, 2 years ago. It might have been 2 years ago, because we hung out at New York Comic Con once, and we were tabled next to each other and really kind of like almost like ripped a stitch laughing the whole weekend. And he was like, yo, we got to keep talking. So, he was nice enough to have me back on his show, and we talked for almost 2 hours. I don't know how much of it he's going to put into the podcast, but it's called Ignorant Bliss. When it goes live, I'll let you guys know, or I'll signal boost it, but it's always fun. And kind of what I was getting to earlier when we're talking about the correlations between the pencil to pencil podcast I did with Mike yesterday, and how I'm talking to you guys here. My one buddy who was, I usually ask people advice. What did you guys think? Do you think it was good? Did you think it wasn't good? Could you not hear me? Blah, blah, blah. Said that he was interested in how I had different styles he didn't say of talking. That's not really what he said. It's kind of like the way I conduct the coffee break was different than how I did pencil to pencil. And I said to him, and I hope I didn't say this already, I'm sorry. And I said, well, that's kind of like my interview style. And when Mike and I, or Mike, Brett and I do more of the pencil to pencil podcasts, I'm not always going to be the conductor of it, or I'm not going to be the moderator or the MC. I find that to be a easy role for me. I like asking questions. I'm very curious. Anybody who's talked to me outside of this or in real life knows that I ask a lot of questions that usually people go, oh, well, I'm surprised you care about that. Yeah, sure, I'll tell you. Because I'm just a curious cat, and I think it spices up interviews or engagements because I ask questions because I care, right? So I think I pull good questions out of Mike when we have our interviews, or even when we talk on the phone, which is really the offshoot of the podcast. The Pencil to Pencil podcast is just a fly on the wall style of, comic book people talking shop. But it's not coffee break, right? It's two totally different things. And one thing that I was concerned about, especially since I did one last night and I'm doing this, is that I want to make sure it feels different. That's my whole point. If anyone listened to my one podcast that's on YouTube where I interviewed Andrew Neal, Andrew is the artist behind Meeting Comics, and I'm always talking about Meeting Comics. And we talked for 2 hours. It's on my YouTube channel. And the name of my experimental podcast is called Thank You for Having Me, where I use my NPR voice at the end, which is a little different also. So I think, you can kind of modulate your thing depending on what your audience is or what you're trying to do. So yeah, what I was getting at is now that we're on this lockdown, I'm going to try to reschedule some of those interviews. And I think it was at the Baltimore Comic-Con in October where JRD, I told you I wanted to interview the studio, and we just ran out of time and I had to get out of there. So let's get back on that. And then you will probably exclusively see those on YouTube. Like I said, I want to beef up the YouTube channel. So look for more of this. I have all this stuff. I'm trying to use it, trying to get my investments worth. Carla says, is anyone having a virtual Comic-Con? Does anybody know about things like that? I heard that people were doing things like that. I don't know how far that's gotten, and I actually don't know how that would work. If anybody has any ideas, I'd love to hear about it. I guess it would be kind of like maybe a live stream or, sorry, my back, or a Zoom thing where people get to talk, maybe pitch their stuff, and then you can Venmo them. That sounds like a really cool idea. I just don't know anything about it. Or maybe JRD does, or Paul, or anybody in the room. That does sound super interesting, though. All right, I'm going to start wrapping it up. If anybody has any last minute things they want to jump on the comments about, let's do it. I want to try to finish this coffee because it's legit cold tonight. It's really cold out tonight. And just remember, as long as I can, I'm going to try to do these every Thursday at 9 o'clock. So put it in your calendar. I'm going to continue to do more event things where I set these up ahead of time so you get reminders. If you were on my Facebook wall, you saw that there was a reminder that this was going to happen tonight. If you're on my Facebook wall, you may have seen my commercial. I'm going to do some more commercials. Just bring up the fact that I'm in here and we're going to do these, and I want you to show up. People always say to me, "Oh man, I wish it was earlier. I'll watch it later," or "Man, I missed it." I want to get away from people feeling like they can't see this if you missed it. These are all on my Facebook wall. tried to make an archive. I think I screwed it up. I might have to re-save everything. So you can just go back down the wall and look at it when you wake up in the morning. It's not like it disappeared or disintegrated. It's there. Paul Pate says, it's in my calendar. Must-see TV. Yes, Paul Pate. Speaking of the virtual Comic-Con, JRD says, there were some hashtags following the cancellation of Emerald City Comic-Con, but I'm not aware of any active shows yet. Yeah, maybe you guys can keep on top of that. Paul Pate says, coffee with JN, then Seinfeld. Yeah, I think that's the 1-2 punch. Right, that's the Thursday block. All right, well, I enjoyed hanging out with you guys. Let me get this one sip in here. I don't want to oversip. Just a couple more plugs before I get out of here. I'm always having fun with my Patreon. And these guys right here, my GLOs, thank you so much for your patronage, especially in these trying times. I don't take it for granted. I know that every dollar counts. And, you know, with the support and support from people like you, I can continue to do, you know, more innovative things, right? Like get a microphone so you can hear me better and do more videos on my phone that you guys help me out with. It all helps put coal in the furnace of the studio. So I really appreciate that. If you'd like to learn how you can become a patron, feel free to go to my Patreon at patreon.com/Jamar Nicholas. It sounded like I said backslash. And thank you, my caffeines, friends and regulars, not decaf, of Coffee Break with JN. I'll see you guys. Thank you. I think this was a strong hour. I always listen to these after they go off just so I can see how I can improve. Almost like an athlete who watches tape of last week's game just to see holes in their performance. I do the same thing. I'm really serious about this, and I don't know if anybody thinks that anybody who's doing this kind of stuff is being serious about it, but it is. You know, I have a business. I run a studio. I have a brand. I have products and things that I try to get out to the world. So every part of this is helping the brand, right? Keep the brand strong. You know what I'm saying? So, and I couldn't be here without you guys. So thank you so much. You've been watching Coffee Break with JN. I have been Jamar Nicholas, your internet safe space. My goal was to drink this coffee and run my mouth. Now that I'm out of coffee, the video's over. Thank you guys. Have a good one.